Hey everyone, it's RedditBot here again, and today, the trending posts we will be looking at is ex-boss accused me of reporting him, so I did. I worked for his small company for 6 weeks at the end of 2020, it was landscape architecture. He sacked me with no real explanation when I was off sick with COVID. I have undiagnosed, highly suspected, ADHD, so I wasn't massively surprised, it affects my performance. But I was surprised by the timing and the fact it was via email. I asked for more clarity. I was never rude to him. I just told him I wish he'd called me so I could get some feedback. He got really mad and proceeded to write a long list of my over-exaggerated and some false shortcomings, for example too slow, distracted, stuff he never mentioned at the time. He then said, if you want to take legal action against me, let me know. I didn't. I left it and moved on. Fast forward to today. He just called my mobile from a private number asking how I was. I was taken aback as we have had no communication since. He said someone has put in a report I'm using unlicensed software. Was it you? Because I know we left on bad terms. I said I've no idea what you're talking about. He made it seem I was devastated he sacked me, lol, and would have good reason to report him. No matter what I said, he was convinced it was me. He even accused my dad, who works in IT. I didn't even know he was using unlicensed software. I said I feel like you're unfairly accusing me here. He raised his voice and shouted, why do you always play the victim? Stop playing the victim. Probably in reference to the fact I questioned the way he sacked me. It sounded so rehearsed I honestly had to hold back laughter. Then he said, I'm not accusing you, but did you do it? Lamau. Looking back, I believe it was unlicensed. We only ever use the student version of Autodesk, which is illegal when you're running a business. This combined with his accusation tells me he is in fact breaking the law. I was so pissed off by his accusation I reported him to both Autodesk and the BSA. He'll have to run an audit and likely face a huge fine. He thinks I did it either way, so what harm can one more report do? Smile. Edit, for all you sad trolls, I didn't complain because he sacked me. I just questioned the way he did it. A simple phone call would have been better than an email. When you're fired you have a right to ask why, and that's easier to do in conversation, best in person. I literally didn't have a problem when he sent a list of my shortcomings. I just accepted it and moved on. I also take full accountability for it. The ADHD played a part, but I'm still to blame for losing the job. Not the ADHD. At no point did I ever say I shouldn't have been sacked. If you actually bothered to read the whole story you wouldn't be making that assumption. I was just pissed he pointed the finger at me for the report. Also, I love this mentality that because I'm a graduate I'm a little bitch and bosses can never be in the wrong. You've clearly never had a job to not know that. Now fuck off. Also, my dad does not work there. Like I already said, he is a software engineer, not a landscape architect. So stop telling me I'm happy to put him out of work. In regards to the ADHD, I didn't know I had it until recently. But it makes sense in hindsight. Especially considering the reasons he fired me are all ADHD symptoms. Although I haven't been officially diagnosed, awaiting, my doctor highly suspects I have it. Thank you to everyone who has offered me advice, smile. Alright guys, let's check out some comments. Unlicensed. Autodesk. Big oof there. They don't fucking play. He's been using the student version trials. I reckon he sent a file to a client and the student message pinged up. They easily could have reported him. The trial prob expired and he thought someone reported him. Now he has a real report. If they are anything like SolidWorks, they have servers that track the files when opened after being emailed. I believe that's how someone I know got caught using a pirate version slapped with a 4,000 bill on top of having to buy the top tier package. Doesn't SolidWorks also put a whacking great student license watermark on your engineering drawings? It did when I was at university, but that was from 2012 to 2017, so it might have changed now. Nope, still there on drawings, DXFS, PDFS, etc. If you export it, it's there. Nobody has ever made a SolidWorks watermark sound so ominous. Oh, that sounds really professional. Just the type of thing I like to see coming from the landscape architect I hired. Gives me a whole lot of confidence in their work. You can easily get rid of that watermark, at least on the PDF versions. The amount of man hours it would take to do that to every project file would pay for getting the full version several times over. Before you save, you use a new layer that you don't use on the project, and there will be no watermark. But it was some time ago. Oh, I saw that as 4,000 bill and tried to imagine how you even could end up pirating $4 trillion worth of software short of hacking the Pentagon or something. Download one Metallica album. Sad, but true. Nothing else matters at that point. And now they're unforgiven. At our office, we once had a visit from people that work for another company, and they had a pirated version of SolidWorks on their laptops. As soon as they connected to our internet, SolidWorks got a warning that somebody in the company has a pirated version. They sent us a huge fine. We sent the fine to the company that visited us and they paid the fine. I am living for this answer. Seriously, he brought this on himself by assuming it was you. You just delivered the coup de grace. Almost definitely this. Isn't it surprising that they may have thought about preventing people from doing this? Idiot gonna idiot though, I guess. I bet he uses Adobe software too. Adobe doesn't fuck around when companies pirate their software. I worked in Asia a few years, and Adobe and a government agency had surprise audit visits to all the graphics studios. I heard they make you buy 10 times the number of copies you have installed or something like that. Weird that a private company can just rock up and inspect another private company private machines. As someone who's in landscape architecture but doesn't use Autodesk, why is it specifically illegal to use the student version while running a business? I can understand it violating their terms and conditions, but what law does it break? Isn't Autodesk a private company? Trying to figure out why the government would care how you use their product. Unless it's a form of piracy even though it's officially registered? It's in their terms of service agreement that the user signed when they purchase the student software. It states that the student license is not for commercial use, it can only be used for learning. Unlicensed. Autodesk. Big oof there. They don't fucking play. There's a fun story from years ago when BSA was doing a lot of stomping around that a design/engineering firm was reported for using cracked Autodesk software. BSA and Autodesk reps came in and audited the site for a day. The manager just sat back and watched the proceedings. When they brought him the report of all the illegal copies of software they ran, he led the BSA team to a closet with all the shrink-wrapped licenses and sealed dongles for every seat in the house. When asked why they run cracked versions of the same software, he said, because the application doesn't crash nearly as often as your dongle version. Because the official product is garbage and some amateur made it better than your highly paid team of coders and engineers could manage while removing some of the security features. Yeah, this happens with Adobe software as well. Their anti-piracy crap slowed down their software to the point it was unusable at times. I gave up paying for it and ran cracked software. I just use it for fun mostly, so it's not worth the hassle. I now use the software I've fully paid for on my iPad. No stupid monthly subscription or it crashing my tablet. If he's a small business, Autodesk, and recently SolidWorks too, have some smaller/free licenses for startups up to 100K revenue. There's really no reason why he should be skimping the license. What the hell? Why didn't this exist when I founded my first firm? For a small startup, your option for drafting software are go bankrupt, pirate it. It's so stupid how they think a startup can afford their subscription fees for Revit. Or anything else for that matter. Yeah, Autodesk came in with a percentage-based scheme a few years ago for startups to have a license that didn't cripple them from the get-go and fostered loyalty among customers. SolidWorks was slow on the uptake, but I'm told anecdotally that Autodesk began eating up the market of hobbyists/contractors who in turn would recommend Autodesk over SolidWorks. I'm about to graduate in Mechang, think I'm gonna grab hobbyist licenses for both and get some practice in. Autodesk could probably convince firms to use Autodesk just by giving them a free trial of SolidWorks. Wapish. Did you mean Hoopah? Is AD really that much better than SW? I've used both. The answer is no. Autodesk Inventor is roughly equivalent to SolidWorks. They have picky little differences that some will prefer in one but not the other, but for the most part, they both do the same job. Conversely, Fusion 360, Autodesk's free/reduced license software, is frustrating if you're used to Inventor or SolidWorks. Yeah. I had Inventor with my old school and is what I used, now I'm stuck with Fusion 360. It's because they have been hemorrhaging market share to Blender in the small game/indie/hobbyist space. It's like how Unreal didn't give two shits about Unity back in the UE3 days. Until all the schools and all the indie teams started using it. And then more experienced places started using it because all the junior talent already knew it and was advocating for it, and damn it's so cheap. Eventually, Unreal got wise and started offering it for free, etc., which is wild because my studio probably paid like $250,000 to $300,000 for their UE3 license 10 to 12 years ago. The price went up the more platforms you shipped on. For 2D, there are open source AutoCAD clones out there. I started using LibreCAD recently, and it seems to be good enough. Granted, I haven't used AutoCAD seriously since AutoCAD 14 and have no need for it being a software engineer. That's right. 3ds Max, what I use, is like $1,700 a year for a big boy license, or $280 if you qualify for their indie license. Definitely worth it. I used a student license for 3 years and then converted it to an indie license. I wish they had a free version since I make zero revenue from this hobby, but it is what it is. That's a good point, but if he's employing people and paying himself, it's almost impossible that his revenue is less than $100,000. I worked at a small engineering company for a while that was owned by a complete nutcase. He had several unlicensed seats of SolidWorks as well as Mastercam. Would have been very easy to shut that guy down. I used to work for a multinational and we had a license for specialized photonics software. I think a single license was $40,000. Electrical engineers in the company had similarly niche software for circuit design. Some guy once defeated the license for just a few minutes to do something quickly. He got caught, the company was fined 6 figures and the dude lost his job. Nobody wanted to fire him because he was good, just made a dumb mistake. But you can't keep someone after they do that. Naturally, there was a company-wide email about respecting software licenses after that. But you can't keep. Yes, you can? Did you expect him to do the same thing again? Lamau. I didn't. But thanks for the idea. Click. Ha ha ha. I'm honestly not really a petty person. I cut ties after he had his tantrum and I never put him on my CV. But calling me up out of the blue and shouting at me? Fuck that. It's probably safer and easier to keep him well away from any CVs. Absolutely. He told me he's burned a few bridges within the industry already. I wonder why. He isn't worth mentioning to anyone. Well, you never know. Yeah, he's a real bastard, might be worth mentioning someday. I have a former boss like that. The company is on my resume, and I've had a few interviewers ask if she had been my boss. When I said she was, they laugh and mention what a piece of work she is. To be fair, she did fire a woman for being sexually harassed because the one harassing her was one of her church buddies. So it isn't like she doesn't deserve her reputation in the industry. I've had a supplier in a new company tell me my ex-boss was a bastard and well known as a bastard. I'm like, thanks, I experienced it firsthand. Or, to potential interviewers, it was a challenging step in my career, but I learned a lot about the industry. Only if he ever comes up in brief passing during the conversation. Otherwise, bury that shit 6 feet down. Sounds like a line right out of IT Crowd. Ha! My mind automatically read it in Chris O'Dowd's voice. People, what a bunch of bastards. Ha, that's the one. Such a goodie. Just to investigators or his potential future spouses. It sucks people like this have money. I actually got my first really plum job because me and my new boss bonded over both being fucked over by the same person. At the time, the guy who did us wrong was very prominent in the industry and my new boss wasn't. When she got away from under his shadow, she had a speedy rise through the ranks and brought me with her. Agree, you don't want to go around bitching about an employer. At the same time, in the right context, it can be useful to share stories. Don't ever tell anyone you reported him though. That's a pleasure best kept secret. I'm pretty amazed that he obviously hasn't worked out, that he's pissed a lot of people off over the years and any one of them could have reported him. Maybe was just one on a long list of people he called to accuse. Nah, use him as a reference then sue his ass for defamation. Running scared and looking for a scapegoat. As someone who uses AutoCAD and Revit. If he gets caught, he is fucked. Autodesk doesn't play around with that. When you charge $5,000 a year for software and have a monopoly on the construction industry, you have the means to eat small businesses alive. I really should have reported a client or two for illegal use of software, more like one legal copy on 5 computers instead of a student license. Especially after I was fired from the client, still worked at my job, not the client, so not actually fired, when I reformatted a drive that I didn't know they had torrented software. So they fired you for stopping their illegal activity? The client asked that I not come back. Yeah. They knew it was wrong, as it was saved under a user profile of someone who no longer worked there, only won that one laptop instead of on the servers which we managed. I had a past coworker call me up 2 years after I left a job and try to borrow $500. Click. That's the ballsiest thing I've ever heard. I talked to someone else about it later. He called a whole bunch of people. Definitely ballsy. I'm not saying it was definitely a drug problem, but it was probably a drug problem. Another possibility. He owed money to people you shouldn't owe money to. So basically a drug problem, hitting. Lol, same thing but more like $2,000. I offered him $200, with interest. He declined. I had a French teacher who made my life hell at school. Any confidence I had left after years of bullying and shit I had to go through with puberty was hacked off by this woman who ground me down to a husk. I had to meet her face to face in a professional setting when we both attended a lecture many years later. My boss introduced me and I remained professional whilst she still made a dig at me. Every atom of my being wanted to tell her she made me and others want to kill themselves. She was a twisted, nasty excuse of a human being and she had no right to ever teach. She was apparently going to retrain as a primary school teacher. But no, I had to be a good example. Seeing her again was one of the many reasons I decided not to be a teacher. I hated it. She gave me detentions for no reason, which she knew stirred the pot of a difficult situation at home. She would give me assignments and rip them up in front of me and actively pick on me in class where none of my friends were. She would purposely hold me back if the class was at the end of the day to belittle me and so I'd miss my bus. I have witnesses to this, but the school didn't do anything. So yes, if she reached out to me like Op had the boss do, I would certainly return the favor and report it as much as I could on her. If he was a jerk to you, he was likely a jerk to other people. It's not the ones that call you out that are going to put in a complaint about you, it's the ones that you think you've got one over on and who silently disagree. As a boss, you can use authoritative power, but people will get payback in ways that you will never know or at a time when you really need things to be going well. There is a decent reward for reporting as well. During COVID, nobody is going to question a gap in employment during 2020. There's petty, and then there's standing up for a bully. You did the right thing. I hope you also claimed unemployment. Fuck that. I don't like people playing on my phone. Would have done the same. Wondering though, is him asking you not against a law? Intimidating a witness or something? Just spitballing here. And I'm guessing the auditors will look extra hard now that they're received multiple reports from separate sources. Exactly my thought. My first boss was like this, you dodged a bullet only working for him for 6 weeks. Long-term exposure to this level of fuckwittery will mess with your head. Oh God, sorry you had to deal with that. What is it with landscaping company owners? I don't think I ever met one who wasn't a total prick. Basically, everyone in my area that either owns or works for a landscaping company smokes meth. So yeah, definitely not surprised the guy was paranoid as fuck. That'll happen, it's meth. Damn, and I thought that must just be the landscapers I know. Wonder why that is. A lot of architects are the same from my experience. I blame Rand for that. Ayn Rand. That phone call is what a prosecutor would call witness tampering. Can't stand getting caught in a crime? Commit an even bigger one in a pointless attempt to cover it up. I must admit I did question his level of intelligence when I worked with him. But I didn't realize it was that bad. The funniest part was when he asked, did your dad tell someone, because I know he works in IT? My dad is a software engineer, but it doesn't take one of those to figure out someone isn't paying their license limit. Out of curiosity, how much does one of these licenses cost? AutoCAD costs $2K/year. Small potatoes compared to the cost of an engineer to use it. Small potatoes compared to the cost of an engineer to use it. Some places really don't understand this. Double that for SolidWorks. Isn't it about $7,500 per year for NX? Mind you, there are legal ways of getting SolidWorks for damn near free. I found one because of an interest in building experimental aircraft. Join the group for something like $45 a year, and one of the perks is a copy of SolidWorks. None of these weird cracks, you register it with SolidWorks. And guys, that's where we end it today. Comment below, and remember to subscribe for more educative, entertaining content like this. As you already know, it's Reddit Bot. See you later.